You could easily say, I've done my 8 years, things look really grim, I'm leaving.
I have fantasized about that.
So when did you decide I'm going to come back, and why?
I decided, I think, like 18 months ago. And it's because I'm a bit planful. I want the projects that I'm working on to proceed. Right. So I was firmed up, 18 months, a couple years ago. I always have appreciated the idea of succession planning.
We're rolling. We're rolling.
Calling out tap people. This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.
I haven't seen The Odyssey yet, but they did this forced perspective shot where they had actors greater than 7 feet tall, and then actors who were like 5 feet or shorter, I guess. And so they did this forced perspective shot. So that's a little bit of what's going on here.
It is.
Yeah.
We are back on the Wedge Live podcast. I'm your host, John Edwards. Commissioner Irene Fernando is joining me for another walk. Wirth Lake, is that where we are, Irene Fernando?
Yeah, by the Wirth Pavilion. This is a cool part of District 2, my favorite area.
People loved the Angela Conley walk so much, they demanded Irene Fernando. And board chair of the Hennepin County Board of Commissioners, thank you for being here with me.
Yeah, thank you.
So last time we talked was 8 years ago. You had not yet been elected to what you're doing now.
That's right.
I came to your house, met your
the basement, remember the whole
maps on the wall.
Booths, yeah.
Met your husband. What struck me then about you, I came away with a really strong impression of you, the intensity of you.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Just like your mind
Yes.
is churning, and you have very clear ideas about what you want to do. And so now you're 8 years in, I wonder, did you get all those things done? What has surprised you about the job? Where are we 8 years on?
I have been able to start most of the things. It's funny that you say the word intensity. I have received that feedback. I don't, as a person who's me, I don't see that I'm that intense, but
Really?
it's a consistent word, so I certainly take it as a compliment, I think. It was really 10 years ago that I started the campaign for commissioner.
Right.
It was like January, February of 2017. And so it's really amazing to think of like nearly a decade from like a month's perspective. And when I first started that journey, I literally told people that I wanted to make the county popular. And people laughed. They were like, there's no way it'll be popular. This is not where change occurs.
Or just known. Like
Totally.
not necessarily popular, like let people know what it even does.
I was a little excessive and I said popular. I said the word popular.
Okay.
And that's why I think people cackled at me. But within that first, by 2018, all of the races were contested, including the countywide races, all of the Senate districts and precincts and whatnot who had not previously seen attention towards this race were really increasing. So just out of the gate, as we look to today, there is so much more interest in counties, not just in Hennepin. We've seen contested and competitive races all throughout the state from a county's standpoint. So I feel really happy about that because I believe counties are where everyday people can have the most impact. There's 3,100 counties in the country. Half of the US population lives in 143 of them. So if we can affect the county governance of 100-some counties, we could literally change the lives of everyday people across the country. We have to walk a little bit slower, I think, John.
Oh, do we?
Yeah.
Am I outpacing you?
Well, first off, yeah, you're outpacing me. And then you're having me talk while I'm walking. Like, I'm kind of a unitasker, you know what I mean? Like, that's where the intensity works. I'm just sitting
I was telling you this is a lot harder for me because I have to carry this stick and I have to look down at always a much shorter person that I'm talking to. It is distracting for me too.
Well, I'm glad that we're both stretching in this experience. You know what I mean? This is good growth opportunity. So wanting to make the county known, wanting people to see themselves in the story of leadership and politics and seeing themselves as people who can affect change on the county level, whether they're elected or appointed or a staff person, a resident who's advocating, et cetera. So from that perspective, I feel like a lot has happened in the last 8 to 10 years. Then there are specific policy areas or wishes that I had hoped to be able to pursue, and I really am proud of what we've been able to accomplish. My first gavel, I'm very lucky to have had a gavel every single year. There are several committees, of course the board, and then we have 2 authorities. So the Housing and Redevelopment Authority was the first key leadership position I held, and within housing those first 2 years, that's 2019 and 2020, we were the first jurisdiction to adopt a deeply affordable policy position. That's 30% area median income and below. We shifted some of our funds to first in funding. So instead of a development waiting until everything was sorted and then getting county funds, there were, under certain circumstances, we were willing to be the first funds in to help with the design of such a development. We generated our continuum, really stitching together from temporary shelter for our unhoused residents to deeply affordable, to supportive housing and transitional housing. We added single room occupancy, got Association of Minnesota Counties to establish a subcommittee on housing. So just out of the gate, 2019 and 2020, across the whole housing continuum, really, really material benefits. And some of that came into fruition. For example, a couple of years ago, we were recognized as effectively ending veterans homelessness in Hennepin County, which proves that we can end homelessness, one priority population at a time. Transit's an area of really incredible pride.
I went to the transit section of I think it was your D2 website, Hennepin D2 website, and it is just all blue line stuff. That's been dominating your time. Am I right?
For the present moment, and kind of the whole time, yeah. I mean, to build a major infrastructure project like transit, like a transit light rail. So the blue line is right now, but from the beginning, like the C line wasn't running when I started all this.
Right.
So when we think of just the lettered line, C line, D line, E line, those all started running during my 8 years. A big study on 55 to study a Highway 55 BRT that would get us out to Plymouth and maybe even beyond. Prioritizing the Lowry, Route 32. I'm really passionate about that BRT that would go from Robbinsdale Transit Station to Rosedale Mall. And yes, of course, the Blue Line extension. The Green Line extension also got its final, full funding grant agreement during my time on the board. So from a transit perspective, tons of advancement, but still way more that must be done. Not only just for residents, but for the commercial tax base in order to affect residential property tax burden.
So whenever I see a story lately on the Blue Line, it's always the opponents saying this should be a bus. Make it bus rapid transit. It's faster. It's not going to cause as much disruption. It's not going to cause as much displacement. And obviously you think we should build the Blue Line extension, the light rail. So why are they wrong? Why do we need the Blue Line extension?
That's some phrasing. Okay, so the question of can it become a bus? From a governance perspective, you can't just switch project from a light rail to a bus. Yes. So just mechanically, we would have to conclude the light rail project, return the corridor to its condition, all these provisions, and then restart a BRT project.
In other words,
mechanically, that's not an actionable suggestion.
In other words, I would be dead before it would get built, right? I would never in my life would I get to ride whatever bus they come up with.
I think transit projects should be built a lot faster. So never say never, as they say. But The more important thing than that, the Blue Line extension has been something this corridor has been waiting for 20, 30 years. I live over on 4th and Penn, so not far from where we are now. And as a resident, I advocated for the Blue Line when I was like 20. Yeah. So in addition to people having been waiting forever, the biggest reason, in my opinion, that rail needs to be built in this corridor is because of the commercial tax base. So property taxes, multifaceted. Overall, there are different rates for different property types, and commercial pays at a higher rate than residential. When there are more properties that we can, share the load with, then that decreases how much property taxes for houses and apartment, or for multifamily, for residences, that will decrease. And during a time where the feds have completely upended our tax allocation here, I want to make sure that we have more services while also trying to impact the residential tax burden.
So we talked about your intensity and how you seem like somebody who has a plan very far out into the future, and you got well-developed ideas about what you're getting into, that kind of thing. So I wonder, with all that preparation going in, what have you been surprised about and wish you had known to incorporate into your plans before you started on this path?
I'd say the biggest surprise from a job perspective, these are jobs, an area, we don't actually have job descriptions, but pretend we did. A section that I had not thought previously about is around litigation.
Okay.
So, for example, the county has fought in court against the federal decision making, and we've protected $170 million from being clawed back by the feds. And in order to do that, the county board needs to be willing to direct that, right? We have to direct that we are going to fight against something. So litigation, judicial requirements, settlements, that's an area of work that is not readily accessible or talked about.
How active are you in that? Do you just leave it to the lawyers? What is your level of involvement in litigation?
Well, the board has to permit something like that. We have to vote to enter into
right.
To be a party in a lawsuit. We have to vote for that. So of course we're not the experts. We have an independently elected county attorney, and that office is who manages it. And so when we as an organization are entering it, right, not prosecution, that's the county attorneys. But for us to join a lawsuit, the county board has to be involved, and for any settlement that is recommended by the county attorney, the county board has to approve of it. So there is a decent amount of involvement, at least from a policy direction perspective. And not quite the same, because litigation, courts, but that connects to law. So the legislative agenda and the ways in which a county board directs what a county advocates for via its the legislative agenda is, I had not thought about that previously either. So good example of this is 2023, first trifecta. The couple of years previously, the county board became a bit more vocal. Of course, the Dobbs decision overturned Roe, and I was proud to have authored a action around gender affirming care, and in advance of Roe falling, just making sure that residents, clients, workers were affirmed in their personhood and could feel comfortable coming to work and receiving services. So we had this board action that I'm very, very pleased passed unanimously. I was actually pretty nervous for that action. So I'm chair, a couple years later for the trifecta. And even though we did not have explicitly in our platform, we seek to support being a trans refuge state. We had enough things in our platform and enough resolutions, and I happen to have been the chair. And so when that, really incredible legislation was authored and coming through, Hennepin was able to put the weight of our organization behind that effort. And so there's that type of influence, or you know, you couldn't have known that. I couldn't have known that a decade ago.
Right. And that has obviously picked up in intensity in the last couple of years.
Yes, I mean, right away in 2020 with the global health emergency, and I think it's because since counties administer elections, that 2020 election, you know, we're all at home, and all of a sudden everybody's looking at electoral maps and knows that the Maricopa Canvassing Board exists. You know, there are
Right.
these key areas. So the global health emergency, the format of that, and then of course the intensity that we've experienced here in Minnesota over this last year especially, has really heightened for residents. Counties make a really big difference, and when residents know more about what we can do, then of course, as they should, be more vocal about what they expect from us.
What I have noticed has changed about Hennepin County, maybe it's been in the time you've been in office. I don't know if it's because of you and your colleagues, but the way we do streets, I've been very impressed with the streets that have been redone in my part of the city. I'm sure, I know in Northeast, I've seen some good
We were the
streets over
first
there.
4 to 3 lane conversion.
So-
that took a little bit of encouragement, very exciting.
So can you take a victory lap on that, you and your colleagues, or is this just an evolution that happened, or what was the concrete action that was taken that has made Hennepin County do these streets in a way that is pleasing to me?
This is about you, after all, anyway.
It is. It's about me staying alive.
Absolutely. So there's a few things. I mean, first and foremost, public institution staff, right? Public works staff. The county's full of amazing people who really have worked hard to study their jobs and their professions. And I actually laugh sometimes when I'm on a dais and there's like an urban planner who's presenting on something. And I do wonder, did they know that they'd have to talk to a group of people who know less than them in order for them to do their jobs well? Like, I've thought about that. So I don't know if it's a victory lap because there's obviously a lot more to do. But this board, right, I entered a board that did not have a climate action plan. We have one now. I entered a board that did not have a focus on the towards zero deaths in the same way as we do now. So part of it is making sure that the values that we have or the feedback that residents are offering us make it into governance somewhere. If it is not passed in a resolution, if it is not, you know, I know that not everybody loves a study, because like what happens after that, but we should be upset that the recommendations are not implemented from a study, not that the study happened. So the concrete things are, we did shift what our organization prioritizes. We have shifted what we are valuing, and we believe that it is appropriate to prioritize safety over speed.
Oh no!
No.
We are podcasting.
Yeah.
So we're okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was wondering if our podcast was interrupting someone's peaceful walk. That's what I was
It
concerned about.
probably is, but I mean, it's a public space, you know, we get to share it.
Yeah. We have no permits to be here for video recording.
Exactly.
You know, I was reading your website. I was doing my prep last night.
That's good.
And I came upon a phrase from your website, part of your studies, your academic studies. You're a doctor, right?
I am. I just graduated last year.
Really?
That took an effort. Yeah, May 2025.
And
Hey.
oh, hello. The phrase was, it was like matriarchal leadership or
Yeah,
something,
that's
something
what
along
it
those
is.
lines. And I couldn't help thinking of that because I had a conversation with Marion Green recently about the strong mayor and the difference in how the city operates now versus the county. And I don't know if matriarchal leadership styles, what that means necessarily. What does that mean? Why is that a good thing?
I am happy to talk about it. So by the way, have you been here before? Have you walked on this?
I don't think so.
It's pretty cool though. When I moved here 20-ish years ago, just on the other side, before the Twin Stadium, before West End, before this. And it's just cool because we have so many lakes that don't have full access, and the parks prioritize this like long pedestrian bridge. And it has totally changed how people use the park. It's really pleasant. Okay, so matriarchal leadership is something that we've all experienced. We think about patriarchal leadership, or even if we don't think about it, we kind of have felt what that might mean. That is, we're being bold, we're being aggressive. It's all of these words. And so in some ways, because people have asked a lot, like, well, I don't know what matriarchy is. I don't know what matriarchal leadership is. So it's really not who is leading, but how one is leading. So instead of individual gain, maybe it's communal benefit. Matriarchal leaders are accountable, are firm. It's not about a particular kind of softness or harshness. That's something that has come up. But where this came forward for me is I grew up in a matriarchal framing. Filipino, middle of 3 girls. My mom's 9 of 13, dad's 2 of 6. We have a matriarch at the kind of top of that. And culturally, Filipinos have a sense of matriarchy. So it was easier for me to kind of see this job through that lens. We are the caregivers and chores of government. Counties are not doing what's like on the front page of the paper. We're pretty barely recognized relative to the impact. But we are the essential services and vital infrastructure that impacts everybody. When I first started my doctoral work, it was actually before I started running for office, and I took a year off. Then I went back when I started governing. What I ended up studying is county elected officials from the viewpoint of the profession. And 3 key encouragements came out. These would be similar to the recommendations. Take turns, nurture matriarchy, and elevate counties. So for me, matriarchy is about perhaps the intensity and the hardened resolve to benefit the community, the environment, to see resources as a cyclical opportunity to affect future generations. So much of the leadership we're seeing right now is literally the opposite of that. We have our first trillionaire. And so matriarchal leadership for me also makes the job more accessible. Hey, we're just gonna take turns. We are a representative democracy, and every single person in this community gets to have a say in that. And when we make these jobs more accessible and connect it to the ancestral wisdom that is carried in our bodies, that transcends kind of the noise of the near-term divisiveness, I believe that the biggest dreams are possible and beyond.
So is there something about the county board where you guys don't have a boss, right? You're just a group of people?
This is a good question.
Is there something about that lends itself to that style?
Yeah, so I think everybody can embody a matriarchal leadership frame, but you're asking a really cool question from a governance perspective, because counties are unique, and then Minnesota counties are even more unique. So again, 3,100 counties in the country, and parishes and boroughs, they're not all called counties. Some of those seats are partisan, some of them are little legislatures and have majority and minority leads. Some of them have county mayors or a county executive that's elected. Not us. Here in Minnesota, if you live in a county in Minnesota, you are led by a 5 or 7 person board, depending upon population size. And if there is an executive leader in that area, that person is appointed. So imagine if the mayor of a city was appointed versus elected. There isn't that same kind of political fight, I guess you could, it's not always a fight, but there is a kind of governance implication of being opposite to one another. So I do believe that lends towards a different collective opportunity. So at Hennepin, at least in my time here, we've just been leading through so many crises. So it's allowed and forced a different clarity and connection from the 7 commissioners. So right now, we all disagree on a bunch of stuff, but we're very united on how are we going to continue services? How are we going to streamline or consolidate or collaborate services across jurisdictions or with providers? Because we know that the money is not flowing back, right? Our federal tax dollars have exited our area. And historically, they've come back by way of Medicaid and SNAP. Unfortunately, as we saw this past year, it came back by the way of ICE and CBP law enforcement, which is a complete constitutional disaster, in my opinion. And they've really literally reallocated our tax dollars from food and healthcare and housing to mass family separation and violence. Just completely aberrant. So we're very united here, and because of our governance structure, there is a different kind of collectiveness that is possible. It's not guaranteed, but it is possible. And I think also statutorily, we're the main government that is statutorily required to care for the vulnerable.
It makes it hard to know what's going on with county politics because none of you are accusing the others of being pro-crime. I don't know who's pro-crime.
I don't think anybody's pro-crime. Although I think that there are some crimes that aren't defined as crimes yet, but I'm not a lawmaker.
So you said at the DFL convention, the Hennepin County DFL event, I guess it's not technically a convention.
Endorsing event.
Where you were endorsed that this is going to be your final term coming up if you're reelected.
Yep.
Why are you so certain of that? When did you decide? You could easily say, I've done my 8 years, things look really grim, I'm leaving.
I have fantasized about that.
So when did you decide I'm going to come back and why?
Good question. I decided, I think, like 18 months ago. And it's because I'm a bit planful. You know, I don't, if I didn't think it was going to be my how should I say this? I want the projects that I'm working on to proceed. Right. So I was firmed up, 18 months, a couple of years ago. I always have appreciated the idea of succession planning. So the thing that I'm known for as a younger person here is co-founding this youth leadership organization called Students Today, Leaders Forever. And we had planned succession there. We kicked out founders in order to bring in new leaders. We had a shared leadership structure, so obviously a lot of this will sound similar to what I've just been talking about. So similarly to that, I'm kind of terming myself out in some ways because I believe that people should have a chance to run for these jobs if they want them. Hey, what's good? Should be able to run for these jobs, and people need time to prepare.
Because I have a theory. I've been trying this theory out on the other commissioners that
let's
I've talked
hear
to,
it.
is that people only have 8 years in them. Like the good ones only have 8 years in them, and then they're at the end of their emotional rope, and they have to call it quits. Maybe that applies more to city council members. I don't see how anyone does that more than 8 years, but maybe there's a lower intensity level on the county board.
Ooh, interesting. I think it's...
Because I really have, I think poorly of people who've been around for like 20 plus years. Like,
is this some big charade to tell me to conclude?
No, I like what you're doing, and I'm glad you're coming back because, the downside of someone leaving is that they're replaced by someone who should not have this job at all.
Yeah, right.
Like that's the risk. And so you could, if you've been there a while, you could say, I'm afraid of what happens after. It sounds a little bit like you want to finish the job on some stuff that you've started. You don't want to trust that to...
I agree with you that 8 years goes fast from a governance perspective. Like if you're involved, like National Association of Counties, if you're involved in other stuff, I think 10 years would be nice, but I have a 4-year term, so 12 will have to be suitable. And you bring up a good word, emotionally, this is an unreasonable job. Like it's not super great for one's individual well-being or their family's well-being. Right. And so for some number of us, the opportunity for impact has an intrinsic motivation. And I really, really, really want to ensure that future generations are set up well. So I want to finish a few projects. By the way, that's the bench I was telling you about. I'm sure she's got a lot, but it was on her 1 year, and it was just such a unique experience because I found it on accident, meaning, you know, she kind of helped me find it. But I didn't have my phone that day. It was a kind of a difficult day. It was the day after the endorsing event, and I was like, I gotta go for a walk, and didn't bring my phone, and then I just happened upon it, and you can't tell from here that it's dedicated to her, but it just was a beacon that drew me to it.
What do you do to relax? If you've had a stressful time, if people are mad at you and
Me?
you
People
feel
are mad at me?
you feel like the world is coming to an end. Do you take a walk? Like, what do you do to unwind?
I actually sit pretty still.
Oh, you slow down. You're moving
Yeah.
so fast through your life normally that you have to just stop.
Yes, I really appreciate stillness. I really like the quiet, so I'll put on headphones with nothing on it, just sound canceling headphones. The big thing though is I love sports, I love arts, I love musicals. I like being with people where I don't have to talk. I know that sounds funny. Kind of a social introvert in that way. So yeah, concerts, musicals, sports.
What is the story of this hat?
Commish. I got a lot of Commish clothes. I express myself through hats and jerseys.
Did you buy it for yourself? It would be embarrassing. You bought it for yourself?
Oh yeah, I got a whole line. I have like 20 of them.
Do you sell these on the Irene Fernando
No.
store?
It's just for my own clothes.
Okay. I like someone with a clothing line that's just for them. I feel like that's what I do.
I come from a family and an area that is really into custom clothes. So it's not that unique in some ways, but I have taken it to a bit of an nth degree. So I got a bunch of Commish hats and jerseys, because I'll customize a jersey. So it says Commish or Dr. Commish.
Right.
Or if there's like a
Dr. Commish.
Yeah, or if there's a phrase I really think is funny.
Is that
I'll,
ironic though, the Dr. Commish, or do you mean that sincerely? Do we have to call you Dr. Commish now that
No.
you've earned the degree?
People ask me, so I would wear these. And then, I'm not joking, after the 10th person was like, where's your Dr. Commish hat? I was like, fine, sure, whatever. I got so many hats.
They're making fun of you. That's what they're doing.
You think?
Dr. Commish is kind of hilarious.
I've been called much worse than all of these things, and they do happen to be 2 titles I earned, so there you go. Yeah, have you seen the Strib is kind of obsessed with it? It's gotten kind of awkward.
What are
I
they
think.
obsessed with?
The Dr. Commish thing.
Really? I haven't seen a single story about Dr. Commish. What have they said?
I don't know. It's pretty peculiar. You'll have to check that out yourself. People seem to have a lot of opinions on what I call myself and what I wear.
I didn't realize that had become a story.
It's very peculiar.
Okay, well, listeners, look that up. I was at a public meeting, like a community meeting in Uptown last week, or maybe it was this week, I'm losing track, where the sheriff and MPD was there, and the sheriff made a point of saying all of the all of the Minneapolis-based commissioners should be here. We've had violence in the community, and I sense there's a bit of a rivalry between the Minneapolis commissioners and the sheriff. I know a lot of that has to do with the budget and the overspending, and the sheriff says, well, I don't have enough money to do my job. Is the sheriff's office underfunded?
So I don't know what this event was, but just for clarity, there are 4 commissioners that overlap Minneapolis. District 5 has just a few precincts. District 4, Commissioner Conley, her entire district is in Minneapolis. And then District 3, Commissioner Green, has about a third maybe that's not in Minneapolis. I'm almost 50-50. Right. I go St. Anthony Village, Northeast, North Loop, North Minneapolis, Golden Valley, over half of Plymouth and Medicine Lake. So just to state, the sheriff and commissioners are working all the time with various jurisdictions. There's been this claim that we have not budgeted, so I have had to clarify that. The budget has gone up every single year I've been on the board. And so that tension point, especially in a public setting, is obviously the choice of the sheriff. What I can say is In public meetings, commissioners have uplifted that there is a bit of a inequity taking place because cities who use the sheriff's services generally have JPAs, joint powers agreements, and some sort of financial exchange, whereas work that occurs within Minneapolis, there is no financial relationship between the city of Minneapolis and the Hennepin County Sheriff's, or I should say MPD. So that's all on the record, like publicly, commissioners have uplifted that. So I'm not sure why she would single out the 3 Minneapolis commissioners, but of course, there's a growing frustration from all parties, especially residents, because public safety is not being achieved at the level that residents are expecting. I believe public safety should be approached more like through a public health lens. We need to be funding way more prevention and restorative practices. Look at domestic violence. Domestic violence, MPD's performance here has not been favorable. We have neighbors who have called 911 multiple times, who've done the order for protection, who've done everything that the system asks, and they are still quite literally murdered by the person of whom they were calling for help on. So I can't speak to how that meeting was portrayed, but all of us are wanting to have better health outcomes while being sensitive to households' pocketbooks.
So on domestic violence, you wrote that letter last year about MPD mishandling some cases, and women eventually were killed after reporting domestic violence to MPD. Like, why did you, and one of the things you said in the letter was you're not getting communication from the mayor, I think. So why did you choose to write that letter, and do you feel like you've had your concerns addressed by this point?
My concerns are not addressed, unfortunately. It weighs heavily on me, and I really feel that I have not met my own standard of performance yet. So I look forward to striving towards that, and really, really, really hopeful for this last term to have a better update in a few years. What technically inspired me to write it was Miss Mariah Samuels lives up the street from me, and neighbors were asking me what was going on. I am not the responding jurisdiction, and so I wrote the letter to have a sense of formality, because trying to navigate kind of the neighbor questions versus commish questions, I just didn't think that the answers were going to be as dissatisfactory as they ended up being. So that letter was actually just to keep it formal, so that when neighbors asked me what was going on, I could answer formally instead of just me in my yard. What I didn't expect was uncovering glaring gaps in need. And of course, since then, there's been a bunch of reporting that has kind of proven that. And I didn't anticipate that when I first wrote that letter.
Do you get along with Elliot Payne? Are you guys friends? I wonder about you two being friends, because you're both you both have this intensity about yourselves, and you represent, like, your districts overlap.
Yeah, Elliot and I, President Payne and I, are really good buds, I think.
You're hanging out all the time?
I don't hang out anywhere. This is as much hanging out. Hey, how's it going? Hi.
Hello.
This is me hanging out.
Well, I kind of feel like my podcasting is also when I hang out with people.
Exactly. I see him all the time. We've called and text, easily accessible. I am very. Is that us? That is us. That's hilarious.
Yeah, we're squeaking. You want to sit here?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Let me sit over here.
Over here? Okay, cool. I'd love to sit. How'd you know?
There we go. Boom.
So Councilmember Payne and I, Pres Payne and I, we actually were just at this conference together, which was cool. I wasn't expecting that. Organization called Local Progress.
Okay.
I'm kind of newer to it. But yeah, all of Ward 1, where he represents, is within District 2. And what's difficult from a governance perspective, as you were kind of referencing earlier, I entered governing with a Minneapolis that had a different model, right? The council was directing in a different way when I started. And so that 2021 election, right? So 2022 is when it shifted. So I think that Elliott has really strong instincts. It doesn't seem like the council has the mechanism to implement some of those interests.
Yeah, the strong mayor thing really has changed the vibe of the city.
Well, what's so peculiar about that, and I've raised this, is you would think that from an operating perspective it would be more straightforward because all of the operating then is under the executive branch. Mm-hmm. And I haven't individually found that to be easier. So I'm still working on that as a Minneapolis resident myself.
Do you have any reassuring words for people who are concerned about healthcare as the federal government defunds everything? I know you've saved the hospital and you can take a victory lap on that, but like people who are have at risk of having their healthcare taken away.
I don't promise reassuring words. I do promise unwavering resolve. What's occurring in our healthcare system, a portion of it is a long time coming. There has been a ballooning set of expenses in order to deliver healthcare. And for those of us who, kind of appreciate like an evaluation framework, when there's so much more money being spent, at what outcomes? So that has been kind of coming at us for a while. It is taking us more money to offer healthcare with an unknown set of improved outcomes from that. That's kind of a long time coming. Another aspect that's a long time coming is the complexity of who is making this decision, who is making money off of this, what role, why do I have to call 7 different people to get a bill clarified, right? Just splitting all of that up, that's also a long time coming. And then really troubling, in my opinion, there's not even 20 public safety net health systems in the whole country. So I'll tell people, I'm like, okay, education, roads, transit, split. How much do you want? How many public schools do you want versus private schools? Public roads versus private roads? Public transit versus private transit? And people have different numbers, 50-50, 70-30, whatever. But for healthcare, it really is like 95% privatized. It is privately governed nonprofit statuses. So there's a lot of complexity that was already coming at us even before HR 1. And then, of course, as HR 1 came into fold, I'm sure you've seen it, hospitals and clinics closing all over the country, some of them abrupt, like Friday and Monday, So from that perspective, we, Minnesota and we, Hennepin, we were able to see that storm coming from enough distance to mitigate the immediate harm, which is an abrupt closure and an imminent closure. We've done neither of those. And then we've also been able to mitigate a planned closure. So the reassurance I have is in the near term, the solution is that we need to replace the revenue that has been taken away. And whether that is through a different, revenue is government word for revenue is tax. So please forgive me, everybody. But the revenue that should be going to Medicaid, to SNAP, to our hospitals, clinics, health settings are not coming in. So how are we replacing that revenue? The county had proposed a sales tax. I still believe that that's a good idea and can get into that if you'd like. An opportunity is that our previous health system wasn't working for a lot of people anyway. We are not always funding the interventions that give us the best health outcome. So an opportunity is we might be able to think differently or more holistically about what does healthcare mean. And then a really big opportunity, in my opinion, is to really be eyes wide open on the total cost of what it means to achieve or produce health. Right now, our system is very reactive to something being wrong. What's wrong with you? How much pain do you have? Can you describe a symptom? Versus are we, are we investing in the mental health interventions? I entered a county and that we had to say mental health care is health care. Reproductive health care is health care. So I believe I am a bit optimistic in terms of the possibilities. So I look forward to a bunch of us gonna be at the legislature next year saying only Minnesotans get to say how we care for our neighbor. And when we decide how we're gonna generate these funds and how we're gonna spend these funds towards holistically healthier communities, that's food, that's mental health, that's preventative and restorative practices, whether it's domestic and intimate partner violence or gun violence, that we can have a more joyful and resilient community because of those efforts. And we would not have, there's no reason why we would have approached something like that if the system was continuing. They've upended the whole social safety net.
So we could go to war with Iran and like sick ice on the American cities and destroy local economies.
The
things we're spending the money on aren't just like good or bad. It's like actively harmful to everyone's quality of life.
Yeah, when I first started running, like in 2017, people would ask, oh, what's your position on war? What's your position on, just a number of things. And at the time I would say, I don't see why a local elected would comment on that. Even reproductive health care, right? Because we had Roe v. Wade. And now there's a lot of reasons why a local elected would have an opinion on that.
It comes up a lot at city council on these resolutions, whether it's on Gaza or Cuba. It becomes a hot button, your position on Gaza at the city hall lately.
Yeah, so we haven't taken resolutions on that. I, of course, respect any individual bodies on how they pursue, and cities have historically had a kind of a different role with resolutions and proclamations than a lot of times counties have. I am against violence anywhere, and my stomach turns, and the lack of morality in what has been prioritized using our tax dollars is really unforgivable, honestly.
So you have talked about some of the successes on homelessness for the county as we've talked today, but it is hard to feel like we are succeeding on like Lake Street. We've had the mayor announce recently a change. I don't know if it's a change in course or not, but saying that we're not gonna call them encampments anymore. Some of these, like Lake and Blaisdell, it's an open air drug market, and we're bringing in the police to address it. It's been a huge livability concern in Uptown. So are the county and the city working well together on this? What do you say to people who feel like we're not doing a good job on addressing the homelessness issue?
The county and the city have pretty fundamentally different approaches to this subject. So, period. The county and the city have fundamentally different approaches in response to our unhoused neighbors, in response to encampments. I oppose any language that vilifies addiction and health needs. And should any jurisdiction wish to contribute to this space, the best place to start would be to fund their local providers. There are no jurisdiction other than Hennepin has consistently provided shelter operation funding. And there are incredible providers out there in suburbs, in small towns, in big cities, all across Minnesota and the country, who've dedicated their lives to care for unhoused neighbors. So any elected anywhere, any resident who wants to write something to an elected, they can absolutely advocate to fund their local shelter provider for operations. And that would make a huge difference. Hennepin County is one of the last jurisdictions in the entire country that has any policy provision that guarantees access to shelter. What does that mean? That means in this country, in the vast majority of this country, people would rather fund lodging via a carceral setting, via prison, than lodging via building a home for someone. And that is mathematically misaligned, and it happens to be morally misaligned in my opinion too.
So last year I saw you giving remarks at the E-Line opening. I think you were there at MCTC. And did you tell a story about little Irene Fernando riding the bus, or your experience with transit as a little girl?
I could have, yeah. I have a lot of transit experiences, yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, for sure. So my parents came over in the 80s, and as a new immigrant family, they walked everywhere, took the buses everywhere. And so as a young child, we would take the bus with our grandparents to the grocery store. This is in LA County. And so if I told a story, maybe it was just more of a reference point.
I think it was a reference to,
yeah,
as a little girl, me and myself and my family, we relied on transit.
Yeah, so we, until people could, find old cars and fix them up, we were riding transit. A lot of mechanics and truckers and nurses and electricians and construction workers in my family. I'm the only one with what they call bank hours, which is, I think, business hours. Although I'm certainly in a campaign year, it does not feel like bank hours, not in crisis. My uncle was a bus driver in LA. I took the city bus. We don't have school buses there like they do here.
Okay.
So when I went to high school, if I didn't have someone to give me a ride, I would take the city. We called it the public limo.
The public limo.
We call it the public limo. So on a half day from school, this is going to sound very Californian here. On a half day at school, we would take the public limo to the mall, and then we would take the public limo to the beach, like by the Pacific Ocean beach.
So you came to Minnesota and you didn't go back, right?
20 years.
It seemed like it was kind of a big deal to leave your family.
Yeah.
And come here,
Yeah.
and you stayed.
I did.
Why did you stay? Did you always plan to stay? Did
No.
you think, I'm going to school in Minnesota? And I read a thing where you were very careful about researching the clothes you were going. You read the encyclopedia. This
I
was
did.
A time when was it an online encyclopedia?
No,
Or
it was
little,
the books with the little thin paper.
Is there clothing advice in
Well,
encyclopedias?
glad you brought it up. No, it said it was very cold here. So the first time I was here, it was in July, and I brought all my warm clothes, which was like 3 sweatshirts or something. It was like not warm at all. And luckily it was July, so I didn't actually need them that much. Yes, I came here for college at the age of 17. And very luckily, I joined a sorority in college. I founded this organization called Student City Leaders Forever. So it was my sorority sisters who took me winter shopping. And so they helped to train me properly on how to dress. They were like, when the snot freezes. And I thought they were joking. Your snot does freeze. Super interesting. Layers. Everybody kept telling me layers. I didn't know what that meant until I needed to use layers. But I ended up staying because this organization I started, STLF, with some friends. I'm a co-founder. Shared leadership structure. Our mission was to reveal leadership through service, relationships, and action. And we organized community service and leadership road trips across the country called Pay It Forward tours for college, high school, and middle school youth. So I've seen over 40 states from roadway by charter bus, getting to meet all types of people in the smallest towns and the biggest cities, service projects all over the place. Really, really cool way to get to see the shared humanity of a place. And I'm really lucky to have been able to see the country in that way and develop my leadership through that means. And so very hard to leave home, especially as a first gen kid. It was not what was expected or anticipated. And credit to my family that I've been able to build here. And I think a lot of Minnesotans, whether born Minnesotans or Minnesotans who've become Minnesotan like me, when you find community here, it really is such a tight-knit energy. And I've lived in the same house for 20
really?
years. Yeah, I know, like literally, like,
wow.
Yeah. So I ended up staying in large part because this organization, we wanted to see if we could turn it into like a full-time job nonprofit. And so I was with the organization for about a dozen years. I was going to answer that when you said why 3 terms.
Okay.
I was in that organization for about a similar length of time, and it's taken me a decade to finish the PhD. So it's actually kind of a length that makes sense to me. So I love my families here. I have so many wonderful people that I get to be around who've invested in my leadership as a person. I've been able to pay that forward in a lot of ways.
Is it kind of weird? You describe yourself as like a mover, right? You're constantly moving.
I said I love stillness. People perceive me moving a lot.
So, okay, so that is the contradiction. I'm thinking you stayed in the same house for 20 years. You really do like...
oh, yeah.
You like staying put.
If possible, yeah.
I think of you as very ambitious, and the intensity thing, I feel like you're constantly striving, but actually you just want to stay in one place.
I think that I have more drive than ambition. I for sure don't have both.
Okay.
I think if I was really ambitious, I'd have some like super long plan on like all the future jobs I'd have, which I don't have. I have a lot of drive. I have a lot of intrinsic motivation, and I've gotten to think about this because people have asked. What drives me the most is preventable structural suffering. If you look at the things that I work on, it's because it doesn't have to be like this. It really does not have to be like this. We have so many resources in the broadest sense of that word. Resources by way of the collective talent and genius in individuals, resources by way of the environment, resources even if we want to think kind of monetarily. And it is the hoarding of those resources that have created this structural suffering that I just don't accept. I just can't stand it. So in some ways, I'm more driven by that than the achievement of some milestone.
Okay, well, Irene Fernando, are you going to stay with us after you leave office? Are you here for life? Are you in Minneapolis for life?
That's a great question. I don't believe I'm in Minneapolis for life. Life is long.
Okay.
I've always said that I would end up back home, although that seems really hard to move back to California prices. The biggest thing that motivates me on potentially moving back to California. So, I mean, I have a whole family here too, right? So Minnesota's never going to be gone from me. But I'm Filipino, and we have a very particular way that we grieve. And as I've gotten older, our grieving is very communal and involved. And there will be a time where my physical personhood will need to be with those of whom I'm grieving with. And I anticipate at some point that'll happen. But I've lived on 4th and Penn since literally 2006. I've only had 3 addresses while I've been in Minnesota. Okay. My dorm room, my sorority, and this house. I cheer.
I think you're staying.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. As an LA kid, I always cheer for Minnesota over the LA teams. So that's kind of funny.
At first, I thought that was like a Timberwolves or a Lynx hat.
I mean, this is a Lynx jersey.
Yeah.
Lynx jersey. It's nice. So Minnesota is me, is a part of me. I've spent my entire adult life here. My entire career is here. I am married here. My in-laws are here. I got a bunch of godkids here. So this is home. And you know, it was just such a literal question, and I'm a literal person. So
I did not expect that deep
know.
answer. I expected you to lie and say, well, of course I am always in Minneapolis. I would never leave my beautiful constituents. Constituents for life.
I'm just really bad at picking up on the easy lies that people expect.
Oh, it's great for podcasting.
I was told this, because people would say, like, how are you? And I would answer. Mm-hmm. And so there's a period of time, now when I say I'm unwell or terrible, people get it. Mm-hmm. But there was a period of time where one of my staff was like, Irene, people are actually just asking you to say fine or good.
Yeah, Irene, people don't care about you.
Yeah. So then,
world is cruel.
Then I would answer shorter, and then I had to get the feedback of they actually want you to ask them how they are, and I was like, oh my gosh, I just am not.
Yeah.
I'm not picking up on it. But Minnesota is absolutely home, and Minnesota has a really cool place in kind of the country right now. I've been going to national stuff from a county perspective. I've obviously talked about my work before that. From a county perspective, I feel like I've been saying, hey, Minnesota's cool, Hennepin's doing really important stuff, and especially over the last 8 months, the resilience and compassion and unwavering care that Minnesotans have embodied has been really inspiring for people, and it's been fun for me to kind of describe Minnesotans to others from that, because people don't expect it. They're like, is that really how Minnesotans are? I'm like, oh yeah. Yeah, don't mess with us, especially not in the winter. Like, especially not in the winter. And they're like, what do you mean by that? I'm like, hey, I got training on this too. But in the winter, you literally care for your neighbor differently. Like, you will pull over if somebody's car is if somebody's in need. And I went to a national conference like a week after I had literally done that for some person I didn't know, because saw this individual on the side of the road with a baby, and it's like, well, it's negative 20 out. I'm pretty sure there's a role for me here. So it's been really, really, really cool to be Minnesotan here, to be Minnesotan, kind of representing Minnesotans, and because I had moved here and spent my whole adult life here, have a certain way that I get to describe who we are.
Well, Irene Fernando, Commissioner Irene Fernando, thank you for joining me.
Yeah.
We are very lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you for staying with us for so long, both in Minneapolis and on this podcast for this walk.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And this has been the Wedge Life Podcast. I'm your host, John Edwards. Thank you for watching and listening.
This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.